Kadosh Boker Tov. Good morning. Masechet Yoma Lamed Bet Amud Bet on the bottom. So today we're doing Daf Gimel, but we're just going to start from Lamed Bet Amud Bet. They said in the Mishnah, Heviu lo the Korban Tamid. They brought the Korban Tamid and then he did the Shechita to it. My kiratzo. What does it mean? The word kiratzo. So Amar Ula says Lishna de Ketalahu. It's a lashon of killing, meaning the word kiratzo comes from the word of to kill. He slaughtered it. Amar of Nachman bar Yitzchak says Nachman bar Yitzchak. Maikra, how do we know the pasuk that kiratzo means to kill? As it says in the pasuk, Egla yefefia Mitzrayim keretz mitzafon bava. It's a pasuk in Yirmiyah. So he says, one second, my masha, how do we know that here when it says keretz mitzafon bava, that the killing from the north is going to come? How do we know that that means to kill? So answers the Gemara, Rav Yosef, just like Rav Yosef, he made the Targum. There was a very good king in Mitzrayim, Egla Yefefiyah. Amemin Katolin, but the Amim, the murderers, they came in Sipuna Yaituna La. They came from the Tzafon, they came on top of him and they killed him. So therefore we learn from the word that Kiratzon or Kiratzo means to kill. So Kiratzo Bekama, which part of the Simanim do you have to kill? Do you have to shecht in order to make it considered that it's a kosher sacrifice? Amar Ula says, Berov Shnaim, the majority of the two pipes, meaning you have the esophagus, right, and the trachea, which is basically the food pipe and the windpipe. He has to cut the majority of both of them. So when he does a shechita, he goes up, he has to cut the majority of both of the pipes. Okay? V'chen Amar Rav Yochanan, so to Rav Yochanan says, Berov Shnaim. Ve'afresh Shakish Sava Berov Shnaim, and also Resh Lakish holds the majority of the two. Ta'amar Resh Lakish, but says Resh Lakish. Since we already learned in Chulin, the majority of one siman, which means if somebody is going to cut the majority of one siman, it's like he slaughtered the entire thing. So lama shaninu rov echad ba'of, the majority of one in a bird, and rov shnaim be'eman, the majority of two in an animal. So says the Gemara, lefish shaninu, but since we learned teviu lo et tamid kiratzo merak acher v'shchita al yado, v'kibel et adam uzrako. So therefore, since we already learned that the Kohen Gadol, they brought him the Korban Tamim, he did the Shechita, then he let another Kohen finish it. Umerak acher shechita al yado, and then Kibel et Adam, the Kohen Gadol accepted the blood, Uzrako, and he sprinkled it on the Mizbeach. Yachol, I would have thought to say lo merak, that if another Kohen wouldn't have finished it, yeh pasul, it would become pasul. Yachol lo merak yeh pasul. So I would have thought to say if somebody else didn't finish it, it's going to become pasul. In Ken, if so, Havale Avodah, it's considered an Avodah with somebody else. The Tanya, we already learned in the Braita, Kol Avodot Yoma Kippurim, Enan Kisherot Elabo. The majority of the meaning, if there's going to be an Avodah not done by the Kohen Gadol and Kippur, it's not going to be kosher. So says the Gemara, Hachi Kamar, this is what it means to say. Yachol Yepsul Midrabanan. I would have thought to say that it's only going to become Pasul Midrabanan. Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph, 33a1. Lekach shaninu, therefore we learned rov echad ba'of ve'rov shnaim ba'behema. The majority, right, of the one siman is going to be in the off, and the majority of both simanim to do with the behema, to do with the animals. Okay, so ask the Gemara, 1 second. If there's no psul even midrabanan, so then why do I need somebody else to finish off the job? The Kohen Gadol came and he cut the majority of the two. It's already kosher. So why do you need another Kohen to come and to finish off the job? It's already done. So answers the Gemara, mitzvah l'marek. You're right. You're not obligated to do it. It's just a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. Why? In order that all the blood should come out properly. So therefore, it's going to be a mitzvah in order to do so. Okay. Abaye mesader ma'aracha. Abaye used to do the maracha aliba mishema de gemara aliba dava shaul. So this we actually learn, right? We actually say in the mornings. So as part of korbanot, we say this. Yeah. Abaye used to come and used to put the order of the avodot in the Bet Mikdash, right, according to the Gemara and according to Abba Shaul. Maracha gedola kodemet le maracha shniya shel ketoret. So first of all, when they used to put the big maracha of wood on the Mizbeach, meaning that they used to set up the wood on the Mizbeach, that would come before the Atzea Maracha Shniya of the Ketoret, right, which they used to do for the Ketoret. Okay? So now what happens is we have Maracha, this is Maracha Gedula. So this Maracha Gedula, this is Maracha Gedula, the big one. This comes before the Maracha Shniya Shel Ketoret. So this one comes before the second one. This is where they put the Ketoret, the outer Ketoret. And this is the Maracha Gedula, which is done on the inside. So Maracha Gedula is before Maracha Shniya Shel Ketoret. You see here again, another picture. Right? This is the Maracha Shniya Shel Ketoret and Maracha Gedula. Okay? It's already on Amud Bet. Okay. So now it says, right? Maracha Shniya Shel Ketoret is before the Sidur Shnei Gezirei Tzim, before they put the two Gezirei Tzim on top of the Maracha Gdola. Sidur Shnei Gezirei Tzim is before the Dishum the Mizbeach Benimi, before the cleaning out of the ashes of the inner Mizbeach, the one on the inside of the Hechal. Dishum Mizbeach HaPenimi, the cleaning of the inside of the Mizbeach, the Penimi, is going to be before the Tavach Chamesh Nerot, before the cleaning of the Menorah, right, which was the Chamesh Nerot. Hatavat Chamesh Nerot, remember, Hatavat Nerot was actually a machloka between the Rambam and others. Does it actually mean the cleaning of the ashes or the actual lighting of the menorah? Hatavat Chamesh Nerot is before the Dama Tamid, the blood of the Tamid. So first they used to set up the menorah, and then afterwards bring the blood of the Tamid and sprinkle it. The Dama Tamid, the blood of the Tamid, was before the Hatavat Nerot, the other two Nerot. Remember that they used to have 7 candles in the menorah, but they used to split it up 5 and 2. Hatavat Nerot, the Hatavat of 2 Nerot, is before the Ketoret. The Ketoret is before the Evarim. Okay, these are talking about the Evarim of the Tamid, right, which is on the Mizbeach HaChitzon. The Evarim, the Evarim, the limbs, are going to be before the Mincha, which is brought with the Korban HaTamid. The Mincha is brought before the Chavitin, which is of the Kohen Gadol. Chavitin is brought before the Nesachin, the wine libations, which was brought with the Tamid. Nesachin, the wine libations, was brought before the Musafin, the Korban Musaf, for example, Shabbat, Yom Tov, things like that. The Shabbat, the Musafin, was brought before the Bazichin. Bazichin was a frankincense that was put on by the Lechem HaPanim, right, on the Shulchan. Ubazichin was brought before the Tamid Shel Ben Abayim, which is the afternoon Tamid, Korban Tamid. Shneimar v'iktir aleh hachel ve'hashalamim. Aleha hashlem kol hakorbanot kulam. Yeah, so which means that on the Korban Tamid Shel Ben Abayim, that's when you finish the services. That's how you finish it all off. Okay, so this is what we actually read every single morning. Okay, in Abaye. Okay, next. Amar Mormor says, according to Abaye, Maracha Gedula is before, Maracha Gedula is Kodem the Maracha Shniya Sheketoret. Menalan, how do we know that the big Maracha, the big fire, how do we know that the big one, which is on the Mizbeach, is going to come before the second one, which is smaller, which is for the Ketoret? The time as we learned in a Braita, Hi ha'ola al Mugdal Mizbeach kol halayla. What does that mean that it's going to go, right? And it's going to be Mugdal Mizbeach kol halayla. Zo, which is Mugdal, which is talking about Maracha Gedula. Esh Mizbeach tu kabo, Zo Maracha Shniya Sheketoret. That's the second Maracha. That's the smaller one of the Ketoret. So says the Gemara, if you're going to tell me Hi ha'ola Mizbeach Mugdal Mizbeach kol halayla is the first one, and Esh Mizbeach tu kabo is the second one, maybe I'm going to flip it. Ve'puchana. Maybe I'm going to say first you have to do the Ketoret one, which is a smaller one, and then the bigger one. So answers the Gemara, Mistabra Maracha Gedola Adifa Sheken Kavaratam Ruba. No, the bigger one is better because it has more kapara. Because basically on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, that which they used to bring all the korbanot except for the Ketoret, so therefore there's much more kapara, there's much more atonement. So it's much better to do the Maracha Gedola before the Maracha Shniya, right, which was of the Ketoret. Okay, so says the Gemara, Adra, but the opposite. Maracha Shniya is better. Shekem Machnisim Mimenu Lifnim. They used to bring the Gechalim inside of the Echal, and therefore because of that, I mean, since it's the inner one, that should be better. By the way, the same Svara, if you remember, we learned yesterday, to do with the white clothing should be better because you're going inside the Kodesh Kodashim. But you had the other way, that the gold clothing, the Bigdei Zahav were better because they had more kapara. So we're trying to use the same Svarot, the same logics. So says the Gemara, Filuach is still kaparatam ruba adifa. It's still better that you have a more of a kapara. Okay? And Vibaitema, if you want, you could also answer, if you're not going to find etzim to the Maracha Shniya, mi lo mehayel. What? You're not going to be able to come and you're not going to bring it up to Maracha Gdola, right? That means what? If you're going to tell me now that you didn't have any wood for the small one, you're not going to be able to bring the Ketoret and the Gechalim, everything from the big one? For sure you should be able to. So therefore, for sure you should. That means it's only a lechat techila that you're supposed to have a separate one for the Ketoret, but technically, if you didn't have one, you could be able to use it from the big one. Next we said, from the small one. right? So therefore, he said, "Manacha shniya shekatoret kodem lesidush negzitzim." We said the second one, which is the manacha shniya, the smaller wood, right? The smaller pieces of wood on the mizbeach. So that's going to be before the sidush negzitzim, before you take the two pieces of wood and you put it on the mizbeach. Menalan, how do we know this? Tirtiv, as it says in a pasuk, uvier alea hakohen etzim baboker baboker. So they say over here that the Kohen came and he was bier alea hakohen, which means the Kohen came and he put it on top of it, baboker baboker. Aleha velo al chaverta. So it means that it has to be on it, on the manacha gedola, and not on the manacha shniya sheketoret. Miklal. So you see from here, te'ita lechaverta. Meaning, if you're going to take the shnei gzeritzim, and it's written about the shnei gzeritzim that you have to put it aleha on it and not on another one, it means that the other one is already there. So therefore, they already had to set up the manacha shniya shel ketoret, and then after setting up the manacha shniya shel ketoret, they're going to come and they're going to put the shnei gzeritzim on it. What is on it? On the first one. So the second one already had to be done. That's why first came the manacha shniya shel ketoret, and then the sidush shnei gzeritzim. The high alea mi by lelugufe. He says, one second, but I thought that alea you needed it for itself, which means, yeah, but I thought the shnei gzeritzim you needed to put it on top of it. So that means when it says aleha, it doesn't come to exclude something else. It just means where do you put the shnei gzeritzim on the manacha gedolah? So answers the Gemara, trei alea k'tive. It's written twice the word aleha. So since it's written twice the word aleha, it means both. Number one, on the manacha gedolah, and number two, the manacha gedolah, right, is going to be before putting the shnei gzeritzim on the manacha gedolah. It has to be preceded by the manacha shniya shel ketoret. Next, sidush shnei gzeritzim is before the dishum mizbeach pnimi. Even though to do with the sidush shnei gzeritzim, it's written baboker baboker in the morning. And here it's written by the dishum mizbeach pnimi also baboker baboker. It's still better. Anything which is machshid is better to be magdim to the thing which is actually which comes to fix. Which means so to here, when you're going to take gechalim, the coals from the wood for the ketoret, it comes out that is going to be machshil la ketoret. It's like a preparingness. So prepare. So anything which is a preparation is better than the actual service in itself. So says the Gemara machshid manihu. What is something which is machshid? Shnei gzeritzim. Ve'amarta shnei gzeritzim manacha gedolah. He says, one second, I thought that says that the shnei gzeritzim is also a preparation, and I thought that we said that they're going to the manacha gedolah. So if so, it's not a machshid to avodat ketoret, because for the ketoret they used to take the gechalim from the second manacha, not from the manacha gedolah and from the shnei gzeritzim. So Rabbi Yirmiyah comes and he says, no, still you should do the shumetzim, right, with the name of wood, which means since the name of the wood is still a machshid, it's still preparing for the ketoret, so therefore you should do it before the ketoret, anything to do with wood, and that's why the shnei gzeritzim is going to come before the ketoret. Okay, that's the answer of Rabbi Yirmiyah. Ravina is going to come and he's going to answer, since you already started with the maracha gedolah, which means you already started with the outer mizbeach, so you finish it off. And then you continue with everything else. So the fact that you already started with the outer mizbeach, you're going to finish the things of the outer mizbeach, and then you're going to go to the inner mizbeach. That's the second answer. Ravashi answers the third answer, right? If you can't find wood for the second maracha, you're not going to bring it from the first one? For sure you would. So because of that, that's why you still finish off the first one. Okay?
He says that you're going to bring it from the big one.
No, it's a question.
Okay.
It's a question. You can't bring it to the big one.
Okay, yes.
Obviously you could. So because of that, it comes out that it's better. Okay? Next one. So the cleaning of the inner mizbeach comes before the 5 nidot. My tama, what's the reasoning? Amar Abaye comes and he says, Gemara Gamirna, Svara lo yadana. He says we have a Kabbalah, okay, but we don't have Svara, which means that we don't have any type of logic. The Rava comes and he says, Keresh Lakish like Keresh Lakish. Tamar Shakish b'sezer Shakish, and Ma'avirin ala mitzvot. We are not going to be Ma'avid on the mitzvot. Which means that when a person already has a mitzvah, he has to do it and he's not allowed to do any other things. So because of that, right, the Rava comes and he says that's the reason why we're going to do the Dishum Mizbech Haramim before Tavach Hamesh Shirot. But basically going to the menorah, you had to pass right, when you used to go to the menorah, you had to pass you had to pass the Mizbech. So because you have to pass the mizbeach, you don't pass over the mitzvot. You do the mitzvah right away. Okay? So now it says the Gemara, right? Lamed Gimel Amud Bet, right? 33b. So therefore, when you're going into the Echal, the first thing that you're going to see is the Mizbeach. So therefore, since you're first going to see the Mizbeach first, so you're not going to be Ma'avin in the mitzvot. You're not allowed to pass over the mitzvot. The Tanya is we learned in the Braita. HaShulchan Batzafon, the Shulchan is in the north. Right, there's the table where they used to put the lechem apanim. Mashuch min hakotel shtei amot umechza. It was further away from the wall, 2.5 amot. Umenorah was in the south. The shulchan min hakotel also shtei amot umechza, 2.5 amot from the south. Mizbeach memutza, and the mizbeach was in the middle. But it was a little bit more towards the outside, kima a little bit. So therefore, when you used to come inside, immediately you used to get to the mizbeach before even going to the menorah. Okay, here you have. I'll show you the picture. This is the menorah. Okay, here's the menorah, 2.5 amot from the wall. Here's the shulchan, 2.5 amot from the wall. This is the north, this is the south, and the mizbeach is smack in the middle, but a little bit more towards outside. So when you're going towards the menorah, you're already passing this mizbeach. So since you're passing the mizbeach, we don't ma'avirin mitzvot, and therefore, right, we have to do it right away. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So now it says the Gemara. So why don't we just put the mizbeach haketoret straight, right? Why does it have to be more towards us? Meaning, if it's more towards outside, obviously, when you're going to go to the menorah, you're gonna. But if you put it on the same level, so then what's going to happen is, if you put it on the same level, what's going to happen is that if it's going to be equal, straight, right? You have the menorah, the mizbeach, and then the lechem apanim, the shulchan. So then you won't pass it. You go straight towards the left to the menorah. That's what the Gemara is asking. So it says, Kevin Dechtiv, since it's written Veta menorah, nochach hashulchan, va'inan dechaza that no. It's written that the menorah has to be opposite the shulchan, so you have to see each other. And if you put the mizbeach right there, in the middle, it would be a pasek. It would be a ifsek. It would be an interruption between the menorah and the shulchan. So therefore, you needed that it should see each other. So therefore, that's why the mizbeach was a little bit more outside towards us. So when you're going to the menorah, you would pass that first. So Amar Rava says, Shema mina midre shakish. We learn from here from Resh Shakish. Abure dera'a atotefta asur. If you're going to go to do the tefillin of Rosh before putting the tefillin shel yad, it's going to be asur, right? Why? Because you're being ma'avir in the mitzvot, which means the fact that you're going to come and you're going to take the tefillin and you're going to go like this, but you just pass the arm, you pass by it, so that's going to be asur. So hech yavid, how are you supposed to do it? Midra'a letotefta, right? First from the zruah you have to come to the rosh, which means first you have to put tefillin shel yad and then you put tefillin shel rosh. By the way, this is even the halacha maaseh. If a person accidentally took out the shel rosh first, they still have to put on the yad and then they put on the shel rosh. Yeah, because that's al-pi Kabbalah. You put on the yad and then the rosh. Okay? Here, what he's saying is because you're not supposed to be ma'avir al mitzvot. V'atavat chamesh nerot kodem ledam hatamid. The atavat chamesh nerot comes before the dam hatamid. The dam hatamid comes before the atavat shte nerot. So first comes the 5 candles of the menorah. Then comes the blood of the tamid. Then comes the other 2 candles of the menorah. My tama, what's the reasoning? Meaning, why is it that the blood of the tamid is going to separate between the 2 different types of the candles, right? So he comes and he says, Amar Abaye says, Hahu baboker, since it's written baboker, we need the shnei gezerei etzim, right? He says we need the concept of the shnei gezerei etzim, that we don't need it, which means that even without that, we already knew about the shnei gezerei etzim, which is going to be before the Yishum Mizbeach HaPnimi. So shadinu lehachat, so now we're going to put the words baboker over here, which means that kilu it's written that the Tavach HaMenesh Nerot, and we need the Avodat HaTamid. So chad shadi l'Tavach HaMenesh Nerot. One of the babokers is going to be put to the Tavach HaMenesh Nerot. Tilikadme the Dam Tamid, that's going to be before the Dam HaTamid. The chad shadi doesn't mean when we're going to throw it on the Dam HaTamid itself. Tilikadme the Tavach Nerot, that's going to be before the Shte Nerot. So because it's written baboker, one of them is for the Hatavach HaMenesh Nerot, which is going to be before the Dam HaTamid, and one of them is going to be for the Dam HaTamid itself, that is going to be before the Tavach Shte Nerot. One of them you're going to bring to the Tavat Chamesh Nerot, that they're going to bring it before the Dam HaTamid, the Hacha that over here, Tzlata, it's written 3 times Baboker. Meaning in the same pasuk, Perek Lamed, pasuk Zayin, it's written, Baboker betivo, et anerot ektirena. Okay, and then a third time it's written to do with Shnei Gzeitzim, Baboker. So therefore, but by here, right, to do with the Dama Tamid, it's only written twice, Baboker. Et HaKeves Achat said Boker, right? So therefore, the second time that it's written by Shnei Gzeitzim, we're going to put it for the Dama Tamid. So v'chad shad the Dama Tamid, then you the Hacha. Now even over here, today it's written twice. V'hacha, and in the other case, it's also twice, meaning that it's 2 and 2. You've got 2 babokers and 2 babokers, 2 against 2. So he says, still mechaper adif. The korban tamid, right? Since korban tamid is korban olah, it's a burnt offering, and it's a kapara, an atonement on all the positive commandments and negative commandments that can be fixed with the positive commandments. So because of that, it's much better because of the kapara, because of the atonement. Okay? Towards the bottom of Lamed Gimel Lamed Bet. Amale Rav Papa le'Abaye. Says Rav Papa to Abaye. Ve'ima, why don't we just say, Chad, one of them is for Shad L'Dishum Mizbeach B'Nimin. The Nikadme that it's going to be before the Dama Tamid. Right? The Hachab is over here, it's written Tlata 3 times Baboker. V'Hacha, and over here, right, by the Dama Tamid, it's only written twice. Ve'chad Shad L'Dama Tamid. So one of them we need it for Dama Tamid, which is going to become before the Tavach HaMesh Rot, that even though over there you have it twice, and here you have it twice, so Mechaper Adif. So answers the Gemara, if so, apsuke b'may mafsaktelu. So okay, you're right. Let's do that. Let's bring the Dama Tamid before the Tavach HaMesh Rot. But then what's going to be the ifsek between the Tavach HaMesh Rot and the Tavach Shten Rot? Meaning you first do the 5 candles, then you do the 2 candles. Right? Because there's 7 in total. Remember the menorah and the Bet HaMikdash always had 7. That's why we're never allowed to have 7. We either have 8 or 6, but you're never allowed to do 7. So the question though is, what do you do now? So he says, what are you going to make afsek? Hani chalei shakish. This is good according to the shakish that he says, Lama metivim v'chuzrim metivim. Why do you do it twice? Kedei largish kol ha'azara kula, in order that everyone should hear about it. Meaning everyone starts hearing the steps and everyone starts hearing what they're doing. So then it makes sense that we're doing it purposely, that we're doing 2 different times. We're doing a Tavach HaMesh Rot, you do something else, you come back, you do a Tavach Shten Rot, and you do that, it makes sense. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, that he says, Baboker, chalakeh l'shnei bekarim, you have to separate it to 2 different bokers. Michael, remember what are you going to say? So Amale Ravina Lavashi says Ravina to Ravashi. Hi Baboker the tzi mimiyatet. He says, what? Do you think that this Baboker is talking about that you need it for the wood is extra? He says you already need it, because the Torah actually comes and tells you the niktimul maracha shniya shel ketoret. You're going to have to bring it before the maracha shniya of the ketoret. So Amalei comes and he says, Ve'lav mu'ukim nadru, we say aleha ve'lo al chaverta mikal dita al chaverta. We already brought that down. We said that since it says viktir aleha, so aleha means on the maracha gedula, which means that there was already a maracha shniya shel ketoret. That means we already know that it's there. So obviously because of that, you can't learn baboker to the Shnei Gzeitzim, because we already learned it. So says the Gemara, Ma'ishna David atvach chamesh ro bereisha, na'avid atvach shten ro bereisha. Fine, we already learned that you have to separate, whether it's according to the Shakish or Rabbi Yochanan, you have to separate the 5 nirot and the 2 nirot. Mm-hmm. The question is, why do you do the 5 one first and then the 2? Do the 2 one first and then the 5. So answers the Gemara, since you started avidruba, do the majority. Meaning if you're already going to start doing the mitzvah, do the majority, which is 5. So you first do the 5 and then you're going to do the 2. So it says the Gemara, v'navid sheet, so do 6. Right? So Amarkra, the pasuk says, "Betivot anerot iktirena, ve'en nerot ptuchot bechutot mishnayim." He says no. When it says betivot anerot, nerot is in plural, so it has to be 2 minimum. So because of that, you have to do 5 and 2. You can't do 6 and 1 because 1 is not nerot; it's ner. So you have to do 5 and 2. V'atavat shte nerot kodem lektoret. Then we said that tavat shte nerot is going to come before the ketoret. So he says the Amarkra says the pasuk betivot anerot ve'hadar yaktirena. First it says betivot anerot. And then yaktirena. So first comes the shtenrot, and then comes the ketoret. So then it says ketoret levarim. Comes the ketoret that comes before the evarim. The Tanya was learned in the Braita. Yugdam davar shneimar baboker should come first something which was written baboker. The davar shelo neimar baboker echa bilvad. So something which only has 1 boker written down. Ve'evarim lemincha. Evarim comes before the mincha. The Tanya was learned in the Braita. How do we know that there should be nothing ever before the Tamid Shel Shachar? Tamid Shel Shachar, which is Shachrit, that should be the first thing. How do we know that? So says the Gemara, Lamedaled Amud Aleph, Tamul Omar, ve'arach alea ha'olah. What does that mean? first you have to do the olah, but it has to be on the esh on mizbeach. So therefore, since it's written varach aleh olah, Amar Rava says ha-olah. What is ha-olah? Varach aleh olah. What is ha-olah? He olah rishona. This hay is telling you that this is the first thing that goes on. So the first thing that goes on the mizbeach is korban tamid shel shachar, right? Fine. Umincha lachavitin. Then we do the mincha before the chavitin, right? Olah umincha. So it says in the pasuk le'akriv isha olah umincha. So therefore, since the pasuk is telling you first it's the olah and the mincha, so the mincha comes before the chavitin. Right? The chavitin was from the Kohen Gadol. Right? That he used to bring chavitin every single day, half in the morning and half in the nighttime. Machatzita baboker, machatzita ba'erev. Right? But chavitin, well, it's a certain type of a sacrifice from the Korban, from the Kohen Gadol. Then it says the chavitin came before the wine libations of the tamid, v'shum mincha, right? And any mincha also. So it says the Gemara, unsachim lemusafim. The nesachim comes before the musafim because it says zevach unsachim. So from here we do not make a hefsek of a korban between the zevach and the nesachim. So therefore that's why the nesachim have to come before the musaf, because the musaf is another sacrifice. So you can't bring something of another sacrifice before bringing the wine libations of the korban tamid. Musafin lebazichin. The musafin come before the bazichin, which are the frankincense. Remember, the frankincense was the two bazichin which were on the of the frankincense which is on the shulchan. So says the Gemara, "Vatanya bazichin kodem musafin." I thought it said the bazichin before the musafin, not the opposite. So says the Gemara, you're right. It's a machloket tanaim. Tanahi machloket tanaim. What does it say? Amar Abaye says, "Mistabra keman amar musafin kodem bazichin." It's more mistaber to say that the musafin is before the bazichin. Okay, Lav mi amar. Didn't you say baboker lagdim? Didn't you say baboker comes to make it earlier? Hachenami, so to hear biyom leacher. The word biyom means to bring it later, not in the morning, but to bring it later. So my ta'ama demanda amar. What's the reasoning of the mandam says bazichin is before the musafin? Kamar chuka mechavitin. You learn a gzera shava. Chuka from the chavitin, which means just like the mincha chavitin is going to be before the musafim, so too the bazichim are going to be before, right, the musafim as well. So says the Gemara, if you're going to learn it from there, so learn the entire thing from there. And then learn that just like the mincha chavitin is before the nesachim, so too the bazichin is going to be before the musafim, the nesachim. So he says, no, lehachi ahani biyom. That's why it says the word biyom hashabbat, leacher, to say that the bazichin is going to be later on, right? And then it's going to be only after the nesachim. Okay? Ketoret shel shachar hayta ben kreva ben dam le'evarim. So the ketoret in the morning, remember the ketoret was brought twice a day, also in the morning and also in the afternoon. That's a ketoret. Pitum ketoret. Yeah. So it used to be brought in the morning. It was brought before the dam tamid and the bringing up of the limbs on the mizbeach. So says the Gemara, Mani, who's the Tana of our Mishnah? Ida banan, if it's going to be the rabbis, ben dam lenirot. They said that the ketoret is going to be brought between the blood and the tavat nirot, the shte nirot. So mibaile. And if it's going to be according to Abba Shaul that argues on the rabbis, ben nirot levarim, has to be between the nirot and nevarim, mibaile. So therefore, obviously here it's a problem because here it's saying that the ketoret is between the blood and nevarim, and it's not true. It's either between the nirot and nevarim or between the dam and the nirot. So answers the Gemara, leolam rabbanan, he really bemet, it's according to the rabbis. Uvesidra lo kamairi. But our Mishnah is not going to be medaktek in the seder avodah, meaning that we're not that medaktek 100% in the order. Meaning we're telling you more or less the order, but even if there's going to be a mistake, don't worry about it. Right? Then we said, shel ben arba'im, hayta kreva ben evarim. So the one of the afternoon is going to be brought between the evarim and the nesachim. So says the Gemara, how do we know these words? Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, it says in Pasuk, Keminchat boker uchnisko ta'aseh. What does that mean? Ma minchat boker ketoret kodem. Just like in the morning, the ketoret is before the wine libations. So too here in the afternoon, the ketoret is before the wine libations. So says the Gemara, Ima lahalan, if over there ketoret is before the evarim. So too here the ketoret is before the evarim. So says the Gemara, Mikti kevrei boker. Does it say like kevrei boker? It says keminchat boker. So just like it's written by the minchat boker, it's like kevrei boker, right? Sorry, keminchat boker, and not like kevrei boker. Okay, fine. So Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita. V'niskor revi'i tayin. What does it mean, v'niskor revi'i tayin? So it's mashma in the pasuk, right, that you have to bring the nesech, right, with, meaning the wine libation, with the tamid sheben arbaim. Yilmad shel shachrit mishel arvit. So we're going to learn the one of shachrit I mean, since just like there's going to be a chiyuv of mincha nesachim in the korban tamid of shachrit, so too of the arvit, right? That means just like the arvit, you need mincha nesachim, so too the shachrit needs it, even though we didn't see it. Okay, I mean, it's not written there. Lamedala the Mubet, 34b. Rebbe comes and he says, arvit mishel shachrit, the opposite. We learn arvit from shachrit, not shachrit, right? So he says not shachrit from arvit, but rather arvit from shachrit. So Bishlam al-Rabbanan is good according to the rabbis. Hi betamid shel ben arbaim ktiv. It's written by the tamid shel ben arbaim, right? Which means that since it's written by tamid shel ben arbaim, so we learn the shachrit from the arvit. But according to Rebbe, my tama, what's the reasoning? Amar Rabba Bar Ula says Rabba Bar Ula Amar Kal, it says in the pasuk la keves ha'echad. What does it mean la keves ha'echad? So it says since it's written la keves ha'echad, then he's called vita la keves ha'echad. So we're talking about ezu keves, which is the keves which is written echad. Have you heard tamid shel shachar? It's written echad. Because it says the keves echad, it says boboker ve'et keves hashni. So the keves echad is in the morning. But Rabbanan, what does it mean echad? So it says miyuchad shebedro. It has to be a very good one, meaning one of the best animals. That's what it means echad, one of the best ones. Okay, the Rebbe, and according to Rebbe, he already learns that from umivchan nidrechem. He already learns it from the best of your services, of your presents, you're gonna of your swears, of your vows that you're gonna bring to the mizbeach. According to Rabbanan, one is a chuvah, one's a nedava utzriche. One of them is a chuvah, an obligation, and one is a nedava, present, and you need both of them. Okay. Okay, but you can't learn one from another.
Is a present and the other one?
Meaning one of them is talking about a present and one of them is talking about an obligation. Meaning when it says mivchan nidrechem, it's talking about the ones of the obligations, right? And the other one is going to be of a present. Okay? Then we said in the two dots, Imaya Kohen Gadol Zakenu Istinis. What happens if the Kohen Gadol, right? What happens if the Kohen Gadol is a Zaken or Istinis, right? He's going to be a Zaken or Istinis, right? So it means he's elderly or he's an Istinis. So Tanya, we learned in a Braita. Amar Rabbi Yehuda says Rabbi Yehuda, right? Ashashiyot shel barzel hayu mechamim me'erev Yom Kippurim umatilin l'toch hatzonen kedei shetafik tzinatan. He says they used to take the metal, like iron, they used to heat it up on Erev Kippur, and then they used to put it in the water on Kippur in itself in order that, right, because it was cold water. So they wanted to, right, exactly. So before we put that, you were talking about water, right? But now we're talking about the use of metal, boiling hot metal inside of it, and that used to heat it up. Okay? Yeah, so they heated up the water. So the Gemara asked, Valo mitzaref. Yeah, but that's mitzaref. Meaning when you take metal, right, and it's boiling hot and you put it in the water, what happens is you strengthen the metal. Yeah. So that's called mitzaref. You're not allowed to do that. So Amar Bevai says, Bevai, shelo igia letzoref, which means that it wasn't hot enough in order to become tziruf, in order to become like hardened in that sense. So Amar Abaya comes and he says, right, afilu teimim you're going to tell me igia letziruf, davar sheno mitkaven mutar. If it's something which is not mitkaven, it's going to be mutar. Okay, which means that if you don't have kavanah to do tziruf, it's going to be permitted. So says the Gemara, does the Baya actually say that? But Tanya, we learned in the Braita, besar loto. What does it mean that you're going to do a brit milah? Kimor besar loto. Afilu bimkom sheyesham baheret. Even if you have tzarat on the brit milah, you're still going to cut it. These are the words of Yeshua. But we say 1 second. So what do you need this pasuk for? Right? We know that you're not allowed to cut off tzarat. So he says, Amar Abaya says, Rabbi Yehuda, it's for Rabbi Yehuda. He said, it's going to be asur. Which means that imagine right now you have a mohel. He's going to do brit milah. Now on the brit milah you have tzarat on the baby. You're not allowed to cut it off because if you cut it off, you're cutting off tzarat. You're not allowed to cut off tzarat. Tzarat is leprosy, right? Lepra, right? So you're not allowed to do that. So he says, obviously this is according to Rabbi Yehuda that says the Davar mitkaven as a sur, that even if you don't have kavanah to do something, it's still going to be a sur. So answers the Gemara, Hanaminu, one of these words, bechol Torah kula, in the entire Torah. Aval hacha babayas siruf terabananhu. This is called siruf midrabanan. Okay, very good. So we continue B'ezrat Hashem tomorrow. This is called Siruf D'Rabbanan, and therefore it's going to be a Surah only D'Rabbanan.